So this one's gonna be fun and more chill and laid back. Today I want to talk about all of the different hair growth hacks that we have been through as a unit from 2000 all the way up to now 2023. So let's hop right into it. It all started in early 2000s. Now I know, for everybody, I know it's not the first time that black women have been wearing afros and curls and all of that. I know. I don't even want to start high school. Let's start 2010. So from 2010 to 2023. When you look online and they ask you and you type in like, oh, when did the curly cuts and stuff start, they're gonna tell you around 97 with something about the Diva cuts, the Diva curl lady, but that ain't what happened. She just took the technique that women with naturally straight or naturally wavy hair use. Women with naturally wavy hair, they cut their hair in a certain way and scrunch it, and when you slide cut and you point cut in a certain way while their hair is wet, right, then what ends up happening is as they scrunch their hair and as their hair dries, it swells, because curly hair swells when it's wet. Curly hair swells when it's wet, and straight hair swells when it's dry. So they'll cut their hair when it's wet so they can see it, because it's stretched mostly when it's wet. So they cut their hair while it's wet because they can actually see what they're doing. And then as it goes from like a choppy haircut to being something that looks like really thick and bodyful curls, right? So when the Team Natural movement started taking over in 2010, and this is coming from a licensed cosmetologist who's been doing hair for well over a decade, long before Team Natural was even a thing. A certain group of hairstylists, not myself, I was not in this group, but there were certain hairstylists that were losing a whole lot of money to Team Natural. So what they were doing, they started implementing the same cuts that the Diva cuts and it was doing. They like, shit, I'm not about to lose money. So that's what happened when black women decided they no longer wanted to come to the shop. The shop was like, no, wait a minute, you can still be natural if you come to a natural salon. So then everybody started doing the Diva cuts, Diva curls thing. So that was the first thing that happened in 2010, where everybody was cutting their hair wet, right, and getting all their little wet little curly cuts, right? It was all cute. Everybody was cool with that little cute little curly little cuts. But then all of the professional cosmetologists like myself was like, hey, wait a minute, don't do that, because it's cute now, but the longer time goes by, the more time goes by, as your hair grows out, it's gonna be choppy, it's gonna look crazy. Everybody was like, y'all hating, y'all just jealous, you just jealous. And then what's happening now? Everybody had to like do big chops and stuff, and now we don't gonna talk about what happened. We just talking about the stuff, and then y'all say it in the comments. I'm not gonna make commentary, because when I make commentary, people say stuff. So up next came protective styling. Protective styling was the name that everybody gave when they got tired of wearing their hair in their little curly cuts. So they was like, I'm gonna get a protective style to protect my curls, right? And so then everybody started doing the weaves and the crochets and all of that. Like all of these things started coming in, right? And this was our protective style era. This was around like 2012, 2011, 2012, where the protective style thing came in. And I remember it vividly because this was around year 2 that the clients that had left for the Team Natural started coming back, wanting me to give them a protective style, wanting to get a weave, right? Because they was tired of the little wash and goes, little curly crunch. People got really confused with protective styles. I think this is where a lot of the problems came in, because people think that just because their hair is braided that it's protected. Sometimes braids can be the worst for your hair depending on your scalp's profile and your hair's profile. So a lot of these protective styles were bad, and it made it so protective styles were no longer protective because everybody was leaving the protective style in for 6 months. So yeah, your hair may be protected, but your scalp is fighting for its life. After that, we had curly hair extensions, right? Curly hair extensions again was a way that everybody could get their hair extensions still while still having a curly hair and not separating from, you know, how they felt. Curly hair extensions, that was all the thing, and it's still not gone. Remember, I'm going to be naming a whole bunch of stuff, some things that are here and some things that are leaving, and some things that you may think need to go. Let me know. Rice water, oh, y'all loved y'all some rice water, swear some of y'all probably still do, smelling like little booty rice nipple juice. Most people went crazy over rice water because they were like, oh my god, it's making my hair grow. But rice water did two things. The first thing was the bacteria that lives within rice water was killing and interacting and eating the bacteria that was on your scalp. So it made it look like your hair was growing a little bit more because that protein was reinforcing the protein that is your hair, because so many women who have been doing the natural thing for so long had hair shafts that were really weak and really damaged. So by putting rice water, which is protein, on the hair shaft that's already broken and brittle and weak, is gonna make it feel really strong, and it'll help to retain length a little bit more because the hair isn't so weak because it's getting an excessive protein treatment. But long term, this is a really aggressive protein treatment, because if you go get a protein treatment from inside of a beauty supply store, the protein treatment, like once the allotted time is passed, is gonna stop working, versus rice water is a live, living, active protein. It's not dead. Once you put it on your scalp, it's gonna forever be living in the scalp. And now today you have an outrageous number of black women with intense follicle infections and bacteria within the hair follicle that some doctors don't even really know how to heal, because there's so many different mixtures of so many different bacteria from your do-it-yourself products, which is next up. Do-it-yourself. We have this whole do-it-yourself era where everybody is mixing like products from the house, like freaking products from the kitchen, under the stove, under your mama's middle closet nook, like all types of rice nipple juice, pumpkin seed batter, and everything, literally any and everything in your kitchen people were putting in their hair. And what happens is, when most people make and spend all of their time making these homemade hair products with all of these different natural things, what you don't realize is, if you don't have a preservative, the bacteria starts to grow immediately, right? So most people think like, oh, it's good for 3 weeks. Yes, it's good for 3 weeks in the refrigerator, but understand that when you are putting a live active bacteria on your scalp, right, and most of y'all are putting the food that y'all are making on your scalp, you rubbing it in, sitting under a steamer, so you're literally throwing a party for the bacteria and then rinsing it off. And most of the time you're not using shampoo because you think shampoo's bad, so the bacteria just stays on the scalp and it lives and it thrives. And so this is why everybody, no matter what you do, you're constantly in this repetitive cycle of bacteria infections, because if you put food in your hair, you have most likely are going to have a bacteria infection, because the bacteria starts growing the second that you put it in the bottle, like immediately. It doesn't, if they tell you like, oh, it's good for 10 days, that doesn't mean, oh, on the 10th day the bacteria is going to grow. No, that just means on the 10th day the bacteria is going to be visible. It's no longer going to be microscopic bacteria, it's going to be visual bacteria that you can see with the naked eye, but the bacteria is always there. Speaking of bacteria, apple cider vinegar. So you got to think about it. If everybody's doing all of these different things that cause buildup on the human scalp, right, and all of these different follicle infections, then something like apple cider vinegar would come to the rescue. Why? Because apple cider vinegar is a pure acid. It is a pure vegetable acid, a pure acid. It has no nutritional value whatsoever. If you look on the back of the apple cider vinegar bottle, all of everything is going to be straight zeros all the way across. So it has no nutritional value, but it is a great detoxifier because it has amazing antibacterial and antimicrobial benefits, because it is an acid. You can use apple cider vinegar to unclog your toilet and unclog your sink. So that's why a lot of people who have locks, they use apple cider vinegar all the time. But you'll also notice that a lot of people that have locks have the same type of balding in the same areas. This is because when you use something like apple cider vinegar on locks, what you do is literally lock acid into the hair shaft, and all locks are is like all of the hair that was supposed to shed and fall on the floor, you just lock it into that lock. thus the name locks, right? So if you are using apple cider vinegar, you've also locked in acid, and that acid eats away at the hair shaft and at the hair follicle over time, thus the balding. Hope that makes sense. But apple cider vinegar, that's another one. I'm sure a lot of y'all like it, but apple cider vinegar is one of the leading causes of all of the different follicle disorders that all of the hair shaft disorders that most women have, because you'll be doing everything right and be like, oh, I only use apple cider vinegar once every 3 months. But listen, it only takes one time for the apple cider vinegar in your toilet for it to be in there to eat away at whatever's in your toilet and unclog it. It only takes one time. So unclogging acid burning your hair is not happening over multiple times, over multiple periods. It'll show up slowly, just like if you get telogen effluvium from stress. It's not like I get stressed on Monday, my hair falls out Tuesday. No, if you get telogen effluvium, you're stressed out in January, you're not gonna see the results of it sometimes till like February or March, right? Because it takes time for it to show up visually. It's not instant. Henna, most people think that henna is something that is temporary hair color. I love henna as a plant, but as a hair color, oh my god, I think it's a freaking nightmare, because henna is not temporary hair color. Henna creates molecular bricks, meaning henna is a protein treatment, and what it does, it links itself to the protein within the hair's cortex. So henna is able to go past the hair's cuticle, is able to get into the cortex of the hair shaft and link itself to the protein that is your hair permanently. You cannot remove henna from the hair. It has to grow itself out. It fades away, but henna does not, like, it doesn't rinse out. It's not temporary hair color. Henna is not better for your hair than regular hair color, than professional hair color is. It's not. And that's just my opinion, because as a professional cosmetologist, if you tell me what your porosity is and I know your scalp's profile, which I will find out on a consultation, I can pick and make a color formulation for you depending on your hair's profile that can be temporary or permanent or semi-permanent, demi-permanent, whatever you want, depending on your hair's porosity and your scalp's profile, what I know about you. But if you're using henna, I don't care what henna you use, like the most organic henna, nothing in it. Like if you were growing henna in your backyard and then you took it out and did everything yourself, organic, no mixes, it lives in your hair shaft forever. So henna, that's a myth. But I'm not saying you don't got not to use it, but just know what you're using. The only people who should use henna are people with high porosity hair who don't mind having this henna in their hair for the rest of their life. And if you don't ever for the rest of your life, if you don't ever want to go to a professional cosmetologist, and if you are comfortable having whatever color you're putting in your head, if you're comfortable with having that for the rest of your life, then cool. Or you have high porosity hair. But if you have low porosity hair, or if you just trying henna for a minute and then one day in a couple of months you're gonna change it, henna has to grow out or has to be cut out. Blue Magic, everybody loves their Blue Magic grease, but Blue Magic is pure petroleum. So Blue Magic does not grow hair, absolutely not, it doesn't. But what Blue Magic does, it helps you to retain the length that you already have. Why? Because it's petroleum. Petroleum is something that they used to use, like even in oil mines, like if they would cut themselves so they could keep working, they layer petroleum on it because it's great as a barrier. So Blue Magic, if you want to use Blue Magic to retain length, then that's cool. But I will say this, whatever you put on your hair is going to make it to your scalp, especially once you lay down. So the longer you use Blue Magic, the more you block the hair follicle, and then long term, by the time you get to your late 40s, early 50s, you'll be going bald. And I'm not saying that to scare nobody, but those are the ages of my clients now. Next up is going to be the bagging method. The bagging method is something that you guys were doing where you wet your hair and drench your hair with like a bunch of conditioner, I think, and then put a plastic bag on and then a scarf, and then went to sleep, and then in the morning you rinse it off. Worst thing you could ever do. First of all, your hair is only going to absorb about 36% of whatever you put on it. Only 36%. Anything after that is just sitting on the scalp. I mean, it's just sitting on the hair. And after after that, then what happens is hydrophysique. Slowly but surely your hair follicle ends up breaking because the hydrogen bond is not supposed to be broken and swollen that long, right? You're just walking around with wet hair and sleeping with wet hair and the tension and the pulling. After a while, you get mechanical damage amongst a whole bunch of other things. But the bagging method, that was one of them. But I'm not supposed to be giving my commentary. I'm just supposed to be bringing it up and we could talk about it in the comments. Be honest, I don't think some of y'all gonna be honest because y'all know y'all probably didn't try all this. We talked about monostat, the yeast infection cream. That was only working because you had the actual yeast infection in your scalp. Aloe, oh my god, everybody, I'm not even gonna say her name, y'all know who I'm talking about, start having y'all putting aloe in y'all hair just because her products in Ulta. So what? Okay, aloe is pure protein. Aloe is made of the same amino acids that your hair is made of. So by you putting aloe in your hair, especially if you're anything other than high porosity hair, you're going to damage your hair. And I'm sorry, don't get mad at me when I say this, but to say, oh, I am putting it on my hair, I'm putting it on my scalp, is the dumbest thing that you can say because your hair is coming directly out of your follicle. So if you put it on your scalp, you automatically putting it on your hair, bro. But aloe was one thing. Like, aloe doesn't belong in your hair. Remember, when you see a bottle or a product that says with aloe in it, what it is really telling you is that's the aloe that they extracted out of the plant. They didn't take the actual aloe and then mush it up, put it in a jar. No, they distilled and took the good things from aloe and put it in the bottle, and they left the bad things over there. So it's not as simple as just taking aloe in the plant and putting it in a blender and putting it in your hair. Stop doing that. Aloe is a very, very intense and aggressive protein treatment, and over long periods of time, it ends up breaking the hair shaft down from protein overload. Scalp massages. Now, scalp massages is one of those things that I do not have a problem with. So, like, there's literally nothing wrong with scalp massages. I have nothing to say. The more you induce blood circulation on your scalp, the better. Like, oh my god, scalp massage. Anyway, scalp massage is amazing. But doing a scalp massage is not the same thing as getting a massage on your back. You do not have to put a bunch of coconut oil to give yourself a scalp massage. If you want to know what products and what tools I really recommend for scalp massages, make sure you check the links in the description box below because there are some. Next up, protein treatments. Social media put everybody in this mind frame to believe that everybody needs a protein treatment, and that is not true. They also made you believe that anybody who has high porosity hair needs a protein treatment, and that is not true. Your hair is made of a protein called keratin, and unless that protein is damaged, you don't need to give yourself a protein treatment. A protein treatment is reinforcing the cuticle. The cuticle is made up of dead hair cells, and those cells are layered on top of each other, right? And so that is what makes up your porosity. The level in which they're layered on top of each other is what's going to determine your porosity. Most people think that if you're high porosity, you automatically need most people think that if you're chemically treated in any way, shape, or form, that you automatically have high porosity hair, and that is not true. There are so many people with relaxers, so many people with bleach blonde hair that still have low porosity hair. If you have extremely low porosity hair and then you get a chemical service and your professional that did it knows how to open the cuticle and remove pigment in a way that doesn't change the cuticle, then you'll still have the same level of porosity. So everybody does not need a protein treatment. You only need a protein treatment if the protein or if your cuticle layers are damaged. If the cuticle layers are not damaged and you're giving yourself protein treatments, you're going to damage your hair. Protein treatments on a person who doesn't need protein is damaging. Essential oils. People are going crazy with essential oils, putting random essential oils on their scalp. Listen, essential oils all need a carrier oil. Essential oils are so powerful. Did you know that like just one little bottle of orange essential oil is equivalent to like 170 oranges? So essential oils are extremely potent and you need to put them in a carrier oil. But people went crazy putting essential oils in the scalp, not understanding them. And the new thing that everybody's doing now, our next one, is herbs. Instead of everybody going crazy mixing hair products, everybody's now mixing herbs and putting any herb in their scalp. And did you know that putting herbs, random herbs in your scalp is 10 times more dangerous than mixing hair products? Did you know that most of the pharmaceutical pharmaceutical drugs that are in your house are extracted from plants. So you taking that whole plant that they extracted parts of it from to make pharmaceutical drugs just directly in your hair will have massive effects long term. If you want to know more about that, because I do need to break it down, let me know and I will break it down. Biotin. Most people think that you have to take biotin pills. These biotin supplements are everywhere, but you guys, biotin is produced in the gut. All you have to do is make sure that you have a healthy balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria within the gut, and you produce biotin on your own within your own gut. Deep conditioning. Deep conditioning. Most people think that everybody needs a deep condition all the time, and most people think that you condition and deep condition. No, your hair shaft only absorbs 36% of what you put on it. So once you use the first conditioner and rinse that out, your hair does not have the ability to absorb anything else in that sitting. So whatever you put on after the first conditioner, you are completely wasting your time, product, and money. Time, product, and money is what you're wasting when you do a conditioner and then a deep conditioner. It makes no sense. All right, you guys, I have so much more in part 2, so let me know which one of these you want me to go deeper into, and let me know any ones that I missed so I can add them to part 2. I want to know in the comments. I'm not judging you, I just want to know, out of the ones that I named today, which ones did you do? I missed a few.